Thank you for stopping by. I am Jeffrey Weiss, your political activist, keeping you abreast of local and world events. Today we discuss in the cause of capitalism and democracy. U.S. foreign policy is adamant and intransigent in placing sanctions against Iran. In return, Iran funds Hezbollah and Hamas in carrying out Islamic attacks all over the Middle East. Sanctions have done nothing but entrench the hardliners in Iran, carrying out attacks, building nuclear capability in spite of, and maybe because of, sanctions. Hassan Rouhani was re-elected president of Iran, which in itself was a surprise because it was under his watch that the nuclear arms deal was signed, with a promise by the U.S. to release Iranian funds that had been frozen and to give Iran access to the SWIFT payment system, which allows all countries and entities to do business with Iran. That never happened due to the hawks in our government. Instead of upholding its end of the bargain, the U.S. reneged based on a missile test by Iran, which did not violate the agreement. The moderates in Iran have a chance to become even more powerful, driving the Iranian society toward commercialization, modernization, and capitalism. And there are even signs of democracy starting to take hold. If the United States now upholds its end of the bargain and the Iranian economy blossoms, which is happening even under U.S. sanctions, the momentum toward capitalism and democracy could become unstoppable. Instead, U.S. policy is to keep sanctions in place, which keeps the hardliners in power and stops capitalism and democracy from proliferating. In 10 or 20 years, Iran could be fully capitalistic and on their way to full democracy and an active, positive member of the world order, one promoting peace because war costs money and interferes with trade. But our foreign policy, driven by the agenda of the military, which is ever more confrontation, demanding ever more expensive weapon systems, and more aggressive stance. The military sees an enemy behind every tree. There has never been a war they did not like, using young men as fodder for their advancement. As Abraham Maslow once said, if you're trained to use a hammer, the whole world looks like a nail. In the case of the military, if you're trained to use a gun, then everyone looks like the enemy. The military-industrial complex is an arrogant, paranoid, self-serving institution that cares little for diplomacy and peaceful coexistence. North Korea is in a similar but more infantile stage of capitalism, but it is taking hold. Instead of allowing free trade to go on, the U.S. chooses to close off borders and locks North Korea out of the world banking system, which again is the SWIFT payment system. There is a small but thriving capitalism going on. It is evident on the streets of Pyongyang. There was active trade going on at the border town of Daedong between China and North Korea until the CIA set up a spy operation there, which brought the attention of the North Koreans and shut down most of the town, and in the process halting the rescue of prisoners fleeing from North Korea. But what's a few dozen lives to the CIA? Gross stupidity. Making North Korea more paranoid, shutting down the progress that free trade was making and its influence on furthering capitalism, exposing escapees to capture and more years of horrific torture. Always looking for immediate answers that involves the use of force, either military or economic in the form of sanctions, has been the U.S. policy for decades. While it is now China who builds infrastructure in Africa, South America, and the stand countries, while the U.S. is hated and attacked by extremists and becomes a smaller player on the world stage and can no longer control the policies of those countries. Good thinking, America. If my articles interest you, please use the link to check out my website and books. Thank you very much.